This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
I just made it. Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Yeah, here we go. And your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com, broadcasting live from Studio A, high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. So link to your instructors at USAPrepares.com, USAPrepares.com. Converging threats, confronted daily. I'm Vincent Finelli. Dave is producing the broadcast in Minnesota. Today we're going to talk about food, and we're going to help you restore nutritional content. We're going to help you reduce food costs. We're going to talk about gardening. We're going to talk about gardening with heirloom seeds. We're going to talk about problems in your garden, bugs, blight, leaf curl, aphids, and the weather changes. With Mike Knox of WhiteHarvestSeed.com. WhiteHarvestSeed.com. Mike Knox is with us in the broadcast classroom. Welcome, Mike Knox.
Hey, Vincent. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Hey, Mike, I got to talk to you about these tomatoes. You know, we have this year we decided to plant, in addition to the standard raised bed gardening technique that we use, the one that Len Pence of GardeningRevolution.com advises, that same technique. We also have a garden in buckets on the veranda in the backyard, and that would get the afternoon sun. And Mike, the sun is so strong that we've got leaf curl and on these tomatoes and the pepper plants. Can you help us with that?
Man, I tell you what, there's this time of year, there's so many things that can be going on in gardens, especially here in the Midwest. We had such a wet and cool spring. We've been having some trouble with blights and those type of things starting early. Essentially, Vincent, plants need a healthy soil, mineral rich, to help fight off diseases and stuff, and if the soil's depleted and it's not rich in those nutrients, those plants are going to become unhealthy, and an unhealthy plant is when these diseases start happening. So the key is, and usually these plants will give you symptoms, they'll show up those symptoms on the plant themselves, coloring or whatever, curl is one, so it's possible they're just light on water, but I would expect, as we talked yesterday about that, it's more of like what you were saying. There's some type of little disease going on, because I'm sure you've got them watered just fine since you're on a container gardening system right there in your on your house.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would say it could be the heat from the sun, going from the extremes. We've had, like I said, cool weather, and then all of a sudden we're getting this hot weather here in the Midwest anyway, and those things are intertwined with that. But and you said you had some problems with aphids, is that right?
Yeah, all of a sudden, Mike, we have these white little aphids, and they just showed up on the plant, on the tomato leaves. And why don't you help us with that? What do we do about that?
Well, man, I tell you what, bugs love gardens. I mean, just as much as humans do. They just they smell that good food just like we do when we cook our dinners and stuff, and that's what they're out there doing. Aphids are just kind of one of those little bugs that they'll do some damage. They won't necessarily, unless you just unless you just don't do anything, and they'll take over. But they're generally not too bad in affecting your plants. But if you start getting a situation, the best thing that I can recommend is hot pepper sprays, garlic sprays. Neem oil is an exceptional product, and these are all natural, of course, things that you can use instead of the toxic chemicals. But neem oil is one that has multiple purposes, not just on insects, but it also helps with a lot of the plant diseases like blight and some of those other things, and powdery mildew and stuff like that. It's kind of an all-purpose thing, and being an all-natural product, it's good to use. And so insecticidal soap's another one for aphids that you can use to take care of those things. But and ladybugs, if you see ladybugs in your garden, they're good. They love aphids, and they'll eat them up. So don't kill the ladybugs if you can help it.
Yeah, no, we've got some ladybugs, and we've always helped them rather than hurt them. We are not interested in killing ladybugs in our gardens. Mike, when you talk about hot pepper sprays, are you saying that I can take some of the hot peppers that I've grown over the years that I've dried and like put them in a blender with some water and then spray the liquid on the leaves? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. Get some hot peppers and just grind it up and then let it steep for a couple hours, and then drain off all the residue stuff, and then just spray that on. And, of course, you're going to have to experiment with that. Certain peppers, maybe if you used a ghost pepper, let's say, that might be a little too hot for the plant to handle. But, you're using cayenne, Tabasco, those type of things would do fine. I've got a little recipe here, Vincent. If you wanted, I'd give it over for your
Sure. Sure,
audience.
That's great.
Take 1 tablespoon of canola oil, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 3 tablespoons of Tabasco sauce, and then 6 drops of non-detergent dish soap, and that's all that does is make it adhere better. And then you just mix that enough water to make up a quart of deal, and then you just let that steep for a little bit, mix it up, and then drain off all the, if there's any residues left from that, and then just spray that on your garden, and that's there you go. That actually works really good for blister beetles when they get into your garden, but it'll help all the way around. And garlic sprays mix in there with some of that in there too, and that'll make it even more potent.
Mike, let me see if I've got this right. I've got I wrote down 1 teaspoon of canola oil. Is that right?
Tablespoon.
Oh, tablespoon. Okay. All right, tablespoon. And then 1, is it teaspoon or tablespoon of canola?
All tablespoons.
Okay. All right.
Of baking soda.
Okay, and then 1 or 3 tablespoons of Tabasco?
Correct.
Okay, and then what was
enough
the
water
rest?
to make a quart. And then enough water, then fill it up with water to make a quart.
Okay, so class, here's what I've got. 1 tablespoon of canola oil, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 3 tablespoons of Tabasco sauce, and then the rest is water to fill up to a quart, which is basically a quart of water, because the 5 tablespoons is hardly any volume at all. So 1 tablespoon canola oil, 1 tablespoon baking soda, 3 tablespoons of Tabasco sauce, and a quart of water. Shake it up and spray it. And how often do we spray that, Mike?
Well, rain will wash that off for sure. Kind of the same thing as neem oil and diatomaceous earth and all those natural products. Rain will just take them off when it hits. So anytime after a rain, you're going to have to reapply it. But it should last at least 2 or 3 days each time you do it. The other key factor is you kind of want to try to do it before they get majorly infested. Because once the bugs get there, they kind of have made their home in a sense. So you kind of want to make sure you try to keep an eye on your garden daily. Just do a walkthrough. You can see things happening on a daily basis. You can see when bugs start popping out. And this, for example, I got some potatoes growing this year in our garden, and they were looking just outstanding. And one night I came in after looking at them, and I was bragging to my wife wife how great they looked, and the next morning I go out and there's just this one potato plant that is absolutely just covered with Colorado potato beetle, and they had just demolished that plant overnight. There were so many, and they were just on this one plant, which is kind of weird. But, so just keep a daily watch on your garden. Take a few minutes just to walk through, see if there's something happening that you didn't see the day before, and a lot of times the diseases will show up that way too. You can start seeing the things that will give you the signs of what's going on there.
Mike, as you walk around town, I know you live in a small town down the road from us, about 20 miles. When you walk around town and people see you, do they say, "Hey, Mike, I'm so glad you're here. Can you help me with my garden? I've got this just one question," which turns into like a half hour. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, well, not so much in the town or the city. I'm out in the country. I'm about 8 miles out of the little town that we're in. But when I go to town or I go to meetups or I go to places and people recognize me, yeah, that happens. And, it's flattering, but at the same time, it's kind of, you don't know what you're going to get hit with. And luckily, people ask me the questions that I know the answers to. So at this point, it works out pretty well.
And class, we live in a small community. Mike, how far is your nearest neighbor from you?
Oh, probably a quarter mile.
Yeah, and that's what it's like out here in the country. There are very few of us, per square mile, and we're on our own. We really are. Mike, I asked Mrs. I was baling hay yesterday, and I asked Mrs. Finelli. She was going to town to pick up a couple of things, and I asked her to get me some shear bolts for the baler. And so these are a quarter inch by an inch and a half long. So she knows how frustrated I am when these things break. So she got me about, I don't know, a couple hundred.
Oh, wow.
Well,
you're stocked now. You're stocked.
Well, for the rest of this season, I'll tell you what, I'm breaking like 6 or 7 of them per field, and it's really frustrating. Oh, no. Yeah, well, that's another thing. We used to make bolts in this country, Mike. Nuts, bolts, screws, and now they're coming from China. And the shear bolts just do not have the same strength as a good old-fashioned American-made bolt. So I don't know where you can get American-made bolts anymore. I don't know.
I really don't.
Seriously. Yeah. And class, we don't buy them by the each. When you're a farmer, you buy these things by the pound. And it's a couple dollars a pound, and the price is great, but the quality's lacking. So the strength of them is so poor that they keep breaking on me, and I can't go to the next grade stronger bolt. We use a grade 2 bolt, but if we go to a grade 5, which is stronger, I'll ruin my equipment because they won't break. Mike Knox is with us, and we're talking about gardening and gardening problems. And we're going to talk about how you can make your garden grow and what to do about these blights, these infestations. And that's what we've started talking about. We're going to continue. Mike's going to be with us for 2 hours today. Mike Knox, whiteharvestseed.com. We'll be right back. Class, Mike Knox is with us, and we are talking about gardening. And we're talking about garden problems and solutions. And I really like this solution, Mike, for the aphids and the problems with the bugs on the tomatoes with the canola oil, the baking soda, the Tabasco sauce, and mix it with water and spray it on every few days. I'm going to do that right after I'm done with the hay today. Mike, what about the worms, like cabbage worms? What do we need to? What do they infect, and what do we do about them?
Cabbage worms, boy, they just tear up your broccoli and your cabbage and your cauliflower, and they go through it quick. There's a few different things you can do with those. The garlic spray, again, is one that, again, you want to do before you see them show up. Actually, generally the sign that you're going to have problems with cabbage worms is usually like you have your plants growing in your garden, and you'll see these little white moths all of a sudden show up in your garden, and they'll just start flying around. They're little tiny white butterflies. And then a few days later, then you'll start seeing some worm activity on those things, and that's the cabbage moth and the cabbage, and it lays the eggs and makes those worms. So if you see those things around, definitely start getting some garlic spray, that preventive sprays down, the hot pepper sprays, so that they won't, when the eggs hatch, they won't start eating. But if you already have a problem, again, go back to that neem oil. I'm a big proponent of that neem oil spray. That stuff just works, and since it's so organic, it's just a wonderful product to use, and people don't have to worry about using 7 Dust or anything like that, or 7, even though those products work. But you're just putting that toxic materials into the plant and into your body too, plus the handling on that. But cabbage worms, essentially, neem oil, the garlic sprays. If you have some problems with caterpillars already, you could even dust them with a little bit of diatomaceous earth. Will do the same thing. But again, like we talked earlier, if it rains, you're going to have to go right back out and redo it again. So just keep it coated.
Mike, when you talk about neem oil, can you spell that for us?
That is spelled N-E-E-M, and it's made from a tree, I think out of either Africa or India. They get it, is where it's what it comes from originally. And like I said, and what he essentially does when the bugs eat it after it's been applied on the plant, it makes them feel full. So they stop eating, and then they die of starvation within a day or two. So that's how it works. It's not an instant kill. Where you spray it and they just fall over dead. It takes a day or two for them to get through their systems, and then they die. So, but that's why it's a good natural product.
Okay, Mike, do you have any recommendations for fruit trees? Because here on the farm we have some pear trees, some apple trees, plum, and I'll tell you what. Last year and the year before we had grasshoppers all over, and actually the year before we were really infested with grasshoppers, and there's so many of them. We were overwhelmed with grasshoppers, and they ate like most of the leaves. Do you have a solution to fend off grasshoppers?
And I tell you, grasshoppers are tough. There's not too many natural means that work well on them. Last year with the droughts and everything that we had, everything was looking for food and looking for foliage, to eat on. And so grasshoppers had a heyday last year. I've used neem oil on them. I've used the diatomaceous, but the diatomaceous only works if they come in contact with it, because it cuts their skin and they dry up and die. There's another product out there. I think it's pyrethians is one that possibly could work on it, and that's an all-natural product. I think it's made out of chrysanthemum flowers. There's also another BT dust that, again, is an all-natural product that you may have some success with. But I think the neem oil may be your best bet, because if you spray that on your foliage and they eat it, then they're going to feel full. But again, they're going to eat some before they keel over and die. So, but they're tough. They're a tough one to get rid of.
How about, Mike, have you ever heard of planting marigolds in gardens?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot on the natural kingdom side where marigolds and marigolds in your garden will draw your beneficial insects, and then on the same time, the smell of them repels certain other bad ones. Nasturtiums is another one that is, if you plant it around your squash areas where you're growing those products, it'll help keep the squash vine borer and also the squash bugs. They don't like the smell of that. Same way with radishes. You plant white icicle radishes around squash and let them just grow up. And again, they don't like the smell, and it's a preventive type thing.
Mike Knox, White Harvest Seed. It's going to be at the Get Prepared Expo. I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back. Mike, did you notice how many of the commercials that we have on this broadcast, usaprepares.com, are centered around preparedness and survival? It's amazing, isn't it? And a lot of the sponsors of this broadcast come to the Get Prepared Expo and speak. And you heard the one for Atlas Survival Shelters. They've been to the Get Prepared Expo.
Yeah, that was amazing. I was just listening to all those here through the break there, and I tell you what, there are some really good ones there. And it makes a lot of sense to advertise on this radio show of yours to do that because your market is that. You know, Vince, I just saw a study yesterday by Yale, the college Yale, and they were interviewing a whole bunch of Americans across the United States, all different parts, the east, west, south, and north, and talking about preparedness. It said 51%. And this survey was just done within the last month. 51% of people throughout the nation are now thinking about disaster preparedness. That's a little late, but I mean, at least there's half the people are thinking about it. But what's interesting is that 33% of the people that they interviewed now have a supply and emergency kits type things, you know, that they're putting into effect to have as a resource. But what's interesting, that's down 5% from last year. So it seems like people maybe are getting complacent again. I don't know. I mean, maybe the tornadoes in Oklahoma and the hurricanes on the East Coast woke up those people. But the West Coast and those type of folks, they seem to be the ones that, according to this interview or this study, that they're the ones that's least doing the least preparation. It's kind of interesting.
Mike, I really wish I could understand why people don't get prepared, and the only thing I can think of is convenience. And you know, those who live in cities have it's all around them. They have it's 24 hours a day supply. I mean, they've got stores 24 hours a day surrounding them, and they can just go get it, whatever it is. But in our case, Mike, at 5 o'clock, the stores, well, not the stores, the store, there's only one around us. There's one store. It's closed at 5 o'clock. And the post office, you know, just to make sure it's convenient for us, they're open twice a day for a couple hours in the morning and then a couple hours in the afternoon. Other than that, they're closed. So,
right.
There's not much convenience here. And so we have to make our own convenience by buying what we need before we need it. But, you know, it's interesting you say that, Mike. But I honestly feel that, yeah, okay, so people are talking about it, but I really don't think as many people are really as prepared as they need to be. I just don't think they are.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. You know, if this poll is true, you know, and only 33% of the of Americans are really seriously, you know, putting some money out and storing up food and water and, you know, guns and ammo or whatever. If that's true, I mean, that means 67%, you know, 2/3 of the people out there are going to be the ones that are going to be the leeches, you know, and going around totally with their chickens with their heads cut off, you know, trying to find that stuff when these disasters do happen. And that's a scary thought.
Yeah, and here's an example, Mike. Let's say, okay, so you're prepared and I'm prepared, all right? Now, and let's say the study's correct, and so 1 out of 3 are either, you know, are being prepared and getting some supplies. That means that there are 2 families for every 1 family that aren't prepared. So are you able to support, in terms of food and supplies, 2 more families going forward? Can you carry 2? I can't. Personally,
I can't at this point.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, as prepared as you are and as prepared as I am, if we all of a sudden have a knock on the door, the front door, and it's like, okay, we're here, 2 more families, and they hop on, and our burn rate goes up by instead of 1 unit per day, we're now burning 3 units a day, because instead of 1 family, we have 3 families consuming. There's no way that the Finelli family can sustain that. There's no way. It's impossible. And I don't think the Knox family can either.
No, we couldn't. I mean, I would tend to hope, you know, that the folks that would happen to come knock on our door would be able to say, hey, we're willing to help out in any way we can, you know, to survive longer, you know, with you all, and be willing to do this instead of just being a leech per se, you know. But you know, it's going to be hard as a Christian. You know, it would be hard if a neighbor or a friend of mine that I hadn't seen for a while comes up to the door and says, "Hey, man, my kids are hungry and I'm thirsty, and do you have any extra food?" You know, it would be very, very hard for me to turn them away. But at the same time, I got to be thinking, you know, what about my family? I've got 2 grandsons and 2 more on the way. You know, that I'm going to have to make sure they have food. So, I mean, where's the balance? And I think that's the struggle that most preppers deal with. You know, who you going to help and who you're not going to.
Mike, I'll share with you a story that is very disturbing. I know we're off topic, but
That's fine.
I'd like to share this with you. I came down to the town where you live a couple of years ago, and I met one of my friends there, and he happened to be in an office. I'll call it an office, and because I don't want to reveal where he was. And all the customers had left, and he was behind the counter, and he came around, and he looked around to make sure nobody was there, and he said something very, very disturbing to me. He said, "Vinny, I'm afraid I might have to shoot my relatives first." And I looked at him like we weren't talking about anything that regarding violence or shooting or anything like that. It just out of the blue, he said this. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "They don't prepare. They won't prepare. They're not," in his words, "they're not putting anything back. They're going out and having, a great time. They're going out to eat. They're blowing their money, and they're not preparing for anything. And I know they're going to show up at my house, and I know I'm going to have to shoot them." And it's like, what? You can't do that.
Wow.
So people are now thinking, and this was a couple of years ago, Mike, people are thinking that their own relatives are going to be such a burden on those who are preparing that they can't sustain their relatives coming. And, it wasn't like he was joking. He was serious.
Right.
Now, he's envisioning extreme times. This is real serious, and I don't know how we can help people prepare so that they are able to survive and take care of their own families and not be a burden on those of us who are preparing. Because as you said, Mike, it's going to be, we want to help everybody, but it could get into a Mad Max situation where it's every man for himself. Right. And I don't want to see that. And the reason that we do this broadcast is so it's not like that. So people do say, you know what, maybe I am responsible for my own family, since
Yeah, I agree. You got to take some responsibility for your own actions, and to do those things to prepare, and I think that's what like you said, not to get off topic too far, but the government wants us to be more on the handout mentality, to rely on them to do the solving and the saving, if you want to call it that, and that's just not the way it works. I mean, that's not the way it will work when it comes down. It'll be tough. So people need to wake up, take advantage of all these opportunities that they can to prepare now, and go to expos like we'll talk about next hour. To learn the information, because there is stuff out there that will allow you to survive and to survive nicely, but you've got to learn it. You've got to go and research it. You've got to listen, take notes, and then apply it in the best way that you can, as quickly as you can. And so take advantage of these opportunities that are out there to go to these things, and learn from these experts that have put so much time into building a product, or from experience, because you never know everything. And unfortunately, a lot of people have that mentality, and they just sit back and do nothing.
You're right. Mike, when we grow our gardens, one of the reasons that we grow a garden is so that we can feed ourselves. And one is to save money. 2 is to know exactly what we're eating. 3 is to save the seeds so that we can be building a garden next year and the year after and the year after, as my grandmother did, and her grandmother did, and her grandmother did, and her grandmother did, and I'm sure your family, same thing. So I was talking with Dr. Julie Pinnock. She was on the air with us this week on Wednesday morning, and she, Dr. Norman Shealy talks about gluten. Don't eat gluten. Don't eat gluten. Dr. Joel Wallach, he's one of us also. He says the same thing. And Julie Pinnock said it very succinctly. She said, okay, here's what happened. They modified the genetic makeup of wheat, and it has these foreign genes in it, and those genes are not digestible, and that causes your body to react negatively. Okay, it becomes toxic. Well, if that's the case, we need to get these GMO foods out of our diet so that we don't become overweight and we don't get diabetes and so forth. So if we want to avoid all that, we have to grow our own gardens. Mike, you've got some news, don't you, about GMO issues?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of new stuff out there. In the seminar that I do at the expos, I talk a little bit about some of the issues that are out there. But some of those things I've talked about is old news compared to some of these things now. I don't know if you the GMO wheat that was found growing in Oregon, that was not supposed to be around, all of a sudden shows up growing in Oregon. That's Monsanto tied with the GMO side, and then this. Kraft macaroni and cheese that's being imported to the United Kingdom is labeled made from genetically modified wheat, when supposedly wheat's not one of the GMO things out there that what we've been told over the past few years. Another lie. But one of the newest studies that I just read talks about GMO wheat that when it's ingested, it causes some, like you said, some things happening in the stomach, in absorbing and in digesting, that are tremendously altering, gene changing in human bodies, and there's going to be kidney problems and stomach ulcers and tumors. I saw a picture yesterday on another of a website called naturalnews.com. And they showed the belly of a pig that had been eating just GMO feed and a pig eating natural feed, nothing GMO in it. And you would not believe the picture difference of how...
Hold that thought, Mike. Let's talk about that when we come back. GMO wheat. Mike Knox, White Harvest Seed. You can meet it at the Get Prepared Expo. Mike Knox will be there presenting seminars. We'll be right back. Mike Knox is with us, whiteharvestseed.com. Mike and I are talking about gardening, and Mike, you're talking about GMO wheat. You're talking about pigs, and please tell us more about that.
Yeah, they recently did a study where they fed pigs, certain test pigs, strictly a GMO diet, and then they also fed them an all-natural diet. And I guess they cut them up and did some research on it, and they had some pictures online. And, of course, whether you can trust everything on the Internet, but this looked like a reputable study. But the pictures of the stomach of the pig that had been eating the GMO food, I tell you what, it was green. It had some of the most nastiest looking stuff hanging in it and on it compared to the healthy pig eating the natural food. And of course, you think that through. Okay, we end up eating the bacon or the sausage or the pork chops, and then also you can take it one step further back. We eat the product. They are the pigs eating corn and soybeans and stuff, and we eat that stuff all the time in processed foods and corn chips or macaroni and cheese or whatever. And so it makes you wonder what's happening to our stomachs, and more new studies are coming out and showing that it is affecting our digestive tract. So your comment that Julie Pinnick was mentioning is so true, that God created foods to be eaten by us and absorbed by our bodies in a natural way. And when there's all this unnatural stuff in these things, you're just setting yourself up for health problems. And the studies are beginning to pop up more and more and more to show that GMO foods are bad. And you're seeing more and more people become more intelligent or aware of that, and they're forcing their politicians to write laws. Now, you and me both agree that we're not fans of politicians too often, but Maine just passed the GMO labeling bill, 141 to 4 in favor of making sure that there's labels marking things that are have GMO products in them. Connecticut already has passed a bill, and Vermont has a bill in motion on that. And I think even Missouri is working on one too. So, people are starting to wake up. But, at the same time, then our president passes a Protect Monsanto bill that you can't sue them or do any action against them. So, there's both sides of the fence here. But people are starting to wake up, and the facts are starting to roll in that GMO foods have been bad for a long time, and people are starting to finally wake up to that fact.
I'll tell you what, Mike, when I go out after a broadcast in the summer, I will go out to the veranda, and I will pick some of those White Harvest Seed tomatoes and White Harvest Seed peppers, and I'll cut up some onion and put it over some cold noodles, pasta noodles, with some oil and extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of vinegar, and some basil that is in our garden. and that will be lunch. And I'll tell you, it's less than 25 cents. It's absolutely great. And for me, it really works.
Vincent. You're making me hungry. We're still 2 hours from lunchtime here.
Well, and a lot of times I'll just have a tomato and green pepper or tomato and jalapeno pepper salad for lunch. And, you know, Mike, honestly, I feel better, more energy than when I have fresh food than when I don't. I need to keep going from early in the morning till late at night. I mean, that's what I do 7 days a week. Mike, you're a farmer. I mean, it's early in the morning till late at night, isn't it? 7 days a week?
Generally, that's the truth. Yeah, I mean, some days you maybe sleep in or something, but generally, yeah, I know our life and what we used to live. We used to be in a local suburbiate family 7 or 8 years ago, and we moved out here to the country to live more self-sufficient and live a simpler life. And I tell you what, it's a little harder, but you have to start a little earlier in the day to get these things done. But, the result is so worth it compared to looking back to where I was, 8 years ago.
Well, you're in control. Mike Knox, whiteharvestseed.com. I'm Vin Finelli. We're going for 2 hours today. Mike's going to be with us on the second hour. When we come back after these few short commercial announcements, I guess we might be talking about gardening. And I want to mention the seed giveaway at some point during the next hour. Mike is going to give away 1,000 packs of seeds. 1,000. No different from the other expos. Mike Knox, whiteharvestseed.com. I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back after top of the hour news and commercial announcements.
Folks, we are back for hour number 2 of the USAPrepares.com show. I am Mike Knox with White Harvest Seed, and with me today on the radio is Vincent Finelli of the USA Prepares Network and the USA Prepares Expo. And this next hour, I'm going to be switching it up here a little bit and interviewing Vinny on some questions that I know I've had over the years that I've known him, and also for some folks maybe that you haven't turning in new to the show. And so, Vinny, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, I hope so, because I've got a list of questions here that I need to ask you, that I know that I've had, like I said, I've been curious of, and and you mentioned one a little bit there in the last hour, of why do you tell people about preparedness? Why do you teach? Why are you on the air broadcasting? Can you fill us in on that?
Mike, be glad to. Many years ago, like 20 years ago, I had been recommending to my relatives that they prepare for whatever, starting way before Y2K. And I would say, if it's on sale and you're going to need it anyway, why don't you buy more of them than what you need right this moment? And a lot of my relatives live in communities like the suburbs, and everything is around them. It's there all the time. I'm talking about the East Coast, and stores are open, many of them 24 hours a day. And gasoline, you can get gasoline at the gas station 24 hours a day, so why do you need to keep it in your garage if they have it at the gas station just waiting for you to show up? And if you want pizza up until 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night, you can just call and order it. If you want Chinese food, the same kind of thing. If you want 24-hour grocery shopping, the same thing. So convenience is there, and the warehouses and the stores are all right there, ready to supply whatever you need. And so it's very difficult to get them, my relatives, to understand that, if something were to happen, those warehouses, stores, and conveniences could stop in a moment's notice. And I was unsuccessful in getting them to prepare to the level I thought they should prepare. And so I thought, well, how can I convince them? Because maybe they think I'm the only one that's like me. but I'm sure that there are others. So I set out to build a group of individuals who also think like I do. And in order to do that, we needed to have an event where we all came together and like-minded people could say similar things, but with different specialties. And so I set out to build an expo, and I decided that if we were going to do this thing, instead of doing a small one where we have 50 people, let's just do it and have a big one. And so in order to do that, I needed to do some advertising. In order to do the advertising, I had to meet with radio stations and television stations and figure out how that worked, because I had never been a customer buying advertising. And so I met with a small radio station in Springfield community, KADI. It's a 1,000-watt station, and they host Dave Ramsey and some other national talk shows, and they have some local programming. And the general manager presented me with an advertising schedule, and he said, okay, here it is. It was on one page, and it was 1 month of advertising for $1,000 on this 1,000-watt station. And I said, boy, I really like it. I just, there's no way, I just can't justify $1,000 on a 1,000-watt station. And he believed in so much of what I was trying to accomplish with the expo. He felt it was actually a community service, which is what I intended it to be. And he said, you're not charging very much for it. It doesn't look like it's a moneymaker. It actually looks like if you break even, you're going to be doing really well. I'll tell you what. He said, I'm going to give you a month's worth of advertising for free. And that was Mark Hall, the general manager of KADI, and I'm sure you've listened to KADI where you travel, and Mike. And so he gave me a month's worth of advertising, and he said, okay, now Wednesday or Friday. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm going to give you your own show, Wednesday or Friday. What would you like? 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I had tears in my eyes, Mike. I couldn't believe this man just gave me $1,000 worth of advertising, and he was going to give me my own, weekly, once a week, 1 hour a week radio show. And I'd never, done that kind of thing before, so I said, wow, that's unbelievable. And I accepted Wednesday graciously. It was a wonderful offer. And so that became broadcast number 1. And for 5 weeks or so, we talked about the Get Prepared Expo and what we're going to do and how it was going to work, and we interviewed some really neat people. And Bob Chapman joined us. Bob Chapman was one of our very first instructors. And so we built a radio broadcast around education, the same thing we were going to do at the Get Prepared Expo, but it was going to be classroom broadcasting about preparedness and survival and the economy and how things work. So that's kind of how I got started in radio. And then the next thing that happened, Mike, was the big station in town, KWTO, picked up the broadcast 5 days a week, or they offered to. And so I met with the general manager of the first radio station, and I said, here's what's on the table. What do I do? And he said, Vinny, you've got to take that offer. You've got to take it. It's a big station. You must go. And so, again, with tears in my eyes, I gave him a big hug and thanked him, and then it was off to KWTO for 5 days a week from the 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock hour, broadcasting about survival and preparedness, exactly the kind of things that you and I do on the radio 5 days a week. So that was the start in radio, and then that got a lot of people paying attention to the Get Prepared Expo. And, of course, the expo is seminars of 1 hour per seminar, and we've had as many as 83 seminars over a 2-day period. So we were successful in doing what we thought, but it wasn't because of me. It was because there's so many instructors that wanted to join forces and be a movement, if you will, to get people educated and to get people trained and to get people thinking about preparedness. So in a nutshell, Mike, what happened was I wanted to get my family and relatives and friends prepared, and I met with resistance that I could not overcome. And I thought, okay, I don't know how to do it by myself. I can probably get some others to to say the same things because they believe them themselves. And next thing you know, we've got the expo, we've got the radio broadcast, and here we are, a couple years later, you and me on the air right now.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. You know, I'm not a radio broadcaster. You probably got that from the opening when I came back in. But you know, the sincerity of knowing you these last few years. You know, when I knew you before you. You know, when you got started in the very first, like you just described, the first radio show, and you called me one day and, you know, and said, hey, would you like to be on the radio? And I was like, oh, my gosh, you know, I like I've said before, my knees were shaking underneath the table and the times when that first time we went on together. And, you know, it's just amazing to see how through the past, you know, few years, this message that you have promoted and done and worked so hard, you and Sandy both have just exploded. I mean, you're on a national network now, and I know some other things have been working. You've added, and it's just amazing to be a part of your group. And I'm grateful that you called me many years ago and said, "Hey, Mike, would you work up some seed for us and you know what we need And by the way, would you like to be part of our network of people, of experts, you know, even though I don't class myself an expert because I'm always learning. But, you know, so, yeah, it's been a joy and been a lot of fun to be on the radio with you and doing this today, and for one, and hopefully it'll be many times in the future. And, you know, we'll talk about the expos, I'm sure, sometime the rest of this hour. There's lots of neat stuff to be talking about that. But, yeah, it's good. I know some folks have heard this story of yours before, at least from the KWTO audience, but your national network, I don't know if they have. And you know, I just want to tell folks, Vinny is who Vinny says he is, and I consider it a privilege to be your friend.
Well, likewise, Mike. And let me share with the class. I wanted to grow seeds, and I wanted to buy them one time. And I did not want to buy them every season. And so I looked around for an honest company that I could go forward with, that I could recommend the seeds to my friends and my associates and my family. And Mike and I talked about how he runs his operation. I'm thinking, these are the same ethics that I had when we were in Virginia running our company, our computer manufacturing company. And I know he works very hard, and you know, everything was just like we would do it if we were in the seed business. I thought, okay, this is great. And I don't do anything for the short run. I look at the long run for everything. So when I bring an instructor on usaprepares.com, I want to make sure that instructor is someone who can go the distance with us and has the ethics and the morals and so forth to be associated with us. And Mike has all those. So I asked him if he would recommend what grows really well in the Ozark Mountains for us. And I said there are 4 instructors that want to buy them, and if he could just put together those seeds. And he did. And 4 of us went in together, and we bought a lifetime supply of seeds from Mike Knox. And those are the seeds that we grow year after year after year. All of us that bought them used those seeds, and they grow. They actually grow. It's not like the pictures on the packets of the seeds, and you say, boy, I hope these grow, and then you go, geez, they didn't grow. No, these actually grow. So that's why Mike Knox is with us. And also, Mike Knox has every expo. Mike, I just want to... When you first agreed to do this, did you realize that you'd be giving out 6,000 packets of seeds?
No, but it's been my pleasure. It really has.
Yeah, and we're going to give away another 1,000 at this expo coming up July 19, 20, and 21.
Well, sort of. This is Mike Knox of White Harvest Seed, and I'm here with Vincent Finelli, and then we're in the middle of hour number 2 of usaprepares.com show with Vincent Finelli as your main host and host every day at this time. And I'm just kind of sitting in here with him, rattling my lips like the old auctioneer in me, and we're going to talk some more about this expo that Vincent's putting on here. I think it's number 6 that's coming up here in Lebanon, Missouri, in just less than 3 weeks, or less than 4 weeks. So, Vincent, you know, Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I know you're just hanging on every word that I say there now. Hey, the expo that's coming up, I go to other expos just as from my business requires me to go to others to keep a living for my family. But I want people to know, and this is not just a buttering up Vinny moment. All the expos that I've been to, and I've been to many over the past few years, and I cannot express and tell you enough that your expo is the sharpest, most educational, most well-run, and informative expo that I've ever been to in all the years that I've went. And I'm not just saying that to butter you up. I'm trying to get people to understand, like I mentioned in hour number one, that, take your opportunities to go to these things, that you can learn valuable information that's going to help you and your family prepare for the future. So can you give us some info about this expo? Well, first I'll start with why you started them. I know you maybe ties into a little bit why you started broadcasting, but then go ahead and feed into, some things that why it's so important for folks to come to this.
Sure, Mike. But I'd like to say one thing first. When I can just see you talking with Mrs. Knox for the very first time about the expo, saying, hey, this is really great. I met this guy, and he's got this expo, and he's going to give us a chance to give away $10,000 worth of seats.
Yeah, I think her mouth hit the floor. And she doesn't have a very big mouth either, so yeah, it was a big drop.
But Mike, I just did a quick calculation. And by the end of this Expo number 6, you will have given away about $10,000 worth of seeds. Expo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And if you look at it, that really is the truth. So to answer your question, Mike, here's the way I look at it. We live in a farm outside of Springfield, Missouri, as you do, and let's say 50 miles, 60 miles outside. Now, I know for a fact that when people need something and they don't have it, they're going to take it. I'm not saying that they want it. I mean, a lot of people want things, and they just look at the store windows and they say, well, the store's closed. I'm not going to go in, bash through the window and take it. However, if it comes to the point when the grid is down or the supply chain is down or the lights are out and the stores are closed all over town because of some event, whether it be an earthquake, a tornado, whatever it is. And the news has borne these facts out, that people will take whatever it is that they need. So the analogy is that the young mother looks at her husband and says, the father of the child, and says, don't you hear her? She's screaming, she's crying, she's hungry, she needs to eat. Go get some food. Go get the formula. So the father goes out, and all the stores are closed. It's dark, and he goes, there's no way I can go back home without food for my child. So the window gets broken. He goes into the store, or the store window's already broken, and there's already looting and mayhem going on. And I clearly envision this. It's happened all over the world. There's no reason. It's happened here. It's happened at Katrina. It's happened as a result of Hurricane Sandy. So the precedent has been set. So I think that is where we're going when the supply chain stops or the power grid goes down. Now, what I believe is the way to approach this is that if that family had what they needed prior to that catastrophe, prior to the grid going down, prior to the tornado, they wouldn't have to be involved in breaking windows, and there would be less bloodshed, there would be less blood on the street, less broken glass, and that is my motivation for doing this.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
That's really
keep that thought. Keep that thought. We're going to come back from the break in just a minute or two, and we'll pick up right there. Vincent, you are creating a monster here at White Harvest Seeds. You know that, don't you? You're whetting my appetite with this broadcasting thing that makes me want to do this full time. So instead of looking at my computer screen all day, I can sit and talk to you. So, hey, I got a quick question. About that last bumper that fed in there, that one with all the static noise and stuff. Is that Sandy talking at the last part of that?
No, but I'll tell you what that's about.
There's one part there. I've wondered for years that when there's a lady that says, now just for 2 seconds, and boy, it sure sounds like Sandy, and I could just picture her just saying that for just 2 seconds, Vincent, I want you to listen to me. and I'm joking with Sandy on that. She's a wonderful lady.
But I think Mike, that's you might be thinking that because when we're at the expo, we're just so busy. It's like nonstop controlled chaos. It really is.
You guys do a great job with that, by the way. Again, like I said, all the expos that I've went to, yours is number one up there in information and seminars and products that are on display. It really is. You and Sandy do a great job with that, so kudos to you guys on that. You were mentioning before the break about, one of the reasons why you started the expo and getting people prepared. By the way, this expo is in July 19th, 20th, and 21st, so it's just a few weeks away, and it's going to be in Lebanon, Missouri. And again, I know you got this station has more of a wider range of audience nationwide, and I know that may say, well, Lebanon, Missouri, that's just a little town. Why aren't you having it in like Kansas City or St. Louis or something? But I tell you what, the venue for this is outstanding. The building, the seminar rooms, the layout, the ease and parking is great. And I'd hope folks would, from Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Iowa, all our neighboring states, take the few hours to go to this thing because you will not be disappointed. The prices are way, way reasonable for your admittance fees to get in for what the information you're going to get. And we'll talk here in a few minutes about some of the seminars you're going to have. But, don't miss this opportunity. Drive the few hours. You can make the excuse, I don't want to drive 4 hours to come to this thing. I tell you, it is worth it. And I'm not just telling you to come as a vendor. I'm telling you to come as hopefully a friend of the folks that come. You need to get this information. And so put forth the effort to come to this thing, and you will not be disappointed. So, Vincent, give us a little bit of info, maybe since you're the organizer and the behind-the-scenes guy, about the expo. Things about it, things that people can expect if they come, and go from there.
Okay, Mike, at the last expo, the April expo, we had people coming from 43 states. Literally 43 states. So almost every state in the United States of America was represented. Almost every one. Alaska was not represented. I mean, it was unbelievable. Here's what we're going to do for this one. The setup day is when the exhibitors and the instructors come. That's on Friday, July 19th. And so that's setup day. And while the exhibitors are setting up, we're going to have a live broadcast. We're going to start broadcasting at 8 o'clock a.m. with Sam Bushman on Liberty News Radio. So we're going to do an 8 o'clock broadcast while we're setting up. He'll be there with me. He's going to be staying at our house. He's been a broadcaster for quite some time, and I really like Sam Bushman. So we're going to start with that, and then Mike, as you know, what we do during these live broadcasts from the expo, we invite the instructors who you've heard on the radio with us 1 hour at a time to come and talk very briefly, introduce themselves to the class, the radio class, as to what their seminar is going to be about. So it's like nonstop, a couple minutes of each instructor on the air with us. You've been with us every single time we've done that, Mike, and you've talked about what your seminars are going to be about. So we're going to start with that at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then at 9 o'clock we're going to do a simulcast on Liberty News and GCN. So the 9 o'clock hour will be a simulcast on two networks, and then we'll do the same thing with the instructors. Then 10 o'clock we're going to do the same thing. So it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 3 hours of live broadcasting. And then on Friday at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when we're going to start our first seminar. So we're going to have early bird seminars Friday at 4 o'clock. And we'll have a seminar at 4 o'clock and another one at 5 o'clock. And then after those 2 seminars are done, we're having a 6 o'clock banquet dinner, a survival banquet dinner with the freeze-dry guy. And he's serving, he's cooking, and we're going to have freeze-dried meal, a full meal. And the cost is $8. And we had 300 people at our last banquet meal, so it was, it's limited. Not everybody that wants to come will be able to come. So we'll have tickets that you can get your freeze-dry guy banquet meal on Friday. Then right after the dinner, we're going to have a show special, which means that for 1 hour, you're going to be able to buy, as a guest, whatever you want at the lowest prices of the Get Prepared Expo. So Friday is 8 o'clock broadcast, 9 o'clock broadcast, 10 o'clock broadcast. Then at 4 o'clock we have the seminar. Then 5 o'clock we have a seminar. Then 6 o'clock we have dinner. And after dinner we have 1 hour of frenzy to buy at the lowest prices, early bird special at the expo. Then Saturday morning at 9 o'clock we start up with the expo exhibits and seminars, and we have nonstop seminars every hour until we close at 6 o'clock. And then we have then we close the exhibits. Then we have dinner. The second survival banquet dinner, $8. Dinner with your instructors, dinner with the guests, meet all the instructors, meet the guests who want to attend. So Friday and Saturday's banquet dinners are with the guests and the instructors. So if you want to meet Mike Knox, if you want to meet Dr. Joel Wallach or Dr. Norman Shealy or Dr. Julie Pennick, or if you want to meet Sheriff Richard Mack, Sam Bushman, I'll be there hosting it. That's what we do. And believe it or not, it takes a couple hours. If we just go up at the microphone and just say, hi, I'm Vin Finelli, I'm the ringleader, hi, I'm Mike Knox, White Harvest Seeds, and you talk a little bit, just for a couple minutes about what you do, it takes hours, right, Mike?
Yeah, it does. Last year's we went to a different spot and had the dinner, and people just kept coming up and saying some nice things, and it turned into a nice little presentation where people got to know each other a lot better and some different things. So yeah, it was a good all around time.
Yeah, and then on so Saturday is expo, seminars, exhibits, and then Sunday we do the expo exhibits and seminars. So that's what the schedule looks like. It looks like it's going to be $18 for the entire 3-day pass, and we've got it's an absolutely packed schedule. And what we're going to do this time is some seminars are going to be turned into workshops. So instead of just 1 hour, some are going to get into in-depth even more, so that you're going to need to bring a notebook and you're going to bring a couple pencils and in case one breaks, or a couple pens, because the notes that you're going to be taking will be extensive. You are going to a university class or university curriculum on survival and preparedness in a weekend. That is what this is all about. And Mike, seriously, I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Have you ever had a single person come up to you at any of the Get Prepared Expos, any of our expos, and said, you know what, I really wish I didn't come to this. I wasted my time, or I didn't learn anything. Has anyone ever said anything even remotely like that to you?
No, the customers that I've always had contact with have been to the point that they've been thrilled. If you wanted to call it a complaint, the only thing I had heard was that people were saying, man, how do I get to all the seminars and get to all the exhibits in just the short period of time? Because, there's so many great seminars and so many great exhibitors there that it's hard to see them all as a single person. And some of the times the seminars, there's certain ones going at the same time that people want to go to both, and they have to make a decision. So, yeah, no, I've had all positive comments from customers that have come in, overall for the whole aspect of the expos.
Mike, as you were saying that, I went to our website and I clicked on the frequently asked questions section, and there are many questions with answers there. And this one section says, and this relates exactly to what you're saying. There are so many great seminars. How can I fit them all in? And then the response is, you're absolutely correct. We can't figure that one out either. There are so many great choices, it's hard to select which ones to attend. Some couples will decide to split up for the seminars. With 4 seminars running simultaneously, that becomes impossible. And that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And, there was a woman who came up to me, Mike, at the last expo, and she said, she had a list. She had printed out the entire schedule, and she said, I want to go to this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. There were like 6
I remember her. She came by our booth. Yeah, I remember her.
And she said, which one should I go to? And I said, well, all right, let's talk about it. And I said, oh, boy. And when we're all done, I said, I can't even answer that question because they're all really good. All the ones that she wanted to go to were so good. I could not recommend one over another, over another, over another. I couldn't. And I said, you'll have to figure that out because based on what she had told me and where she was at what level of preparedness, they were all appropriate. And the problem that we have, Mike, when we schedule what seminars are going to run opposite other seminars, we try to make it so that if you miss one, you can get to it later in the day or the next day. But it really is a tough series of choices. It's not like voting for a politician. It's where they're 2 bad choices, and you have to pick the best of the worst. This is
Right.
It's not like that. It's the exact opposite, where the choices are really, really good.
Well, that's just it. People have to be selective, and they'll have to. And that's one advantage. You can have multiple expos during the year too, so that they can come back if they missed one. A lot of times the seminars are repeated. Well, I hear the music. We're going to take a minute of break. We'll come back, Vincent, to finish out the hour, and we'll talk a little bit more about the seminars and specifically what are they. Back in just a few. Well, I can sure relate to that little bumper, Vincent. That crying. This has been the fastest 2 hours of the morning for me today. It's been a joy to be on here talking with you, and it's kind of sad. We only got a few more minutes left for this broadcast. But getting back to the seminars that it's amazing the ones you have pulled together. Some big name people, and I'm not including myself in that. I'm talking about like Sheriff Mack and Richard Allen Miller and Joyce Riley, some of these names that people are familiar with, and they're going to be there giving presentations and personal presentations. And so can you tell us a few about these that people would definitely want to come to and see and be a part of? I know ours, the one we're going to do, we're going to try to modify it and update it a little bit, so if somebody's been to mine in the past, we'll have some new information on it too. But can you give us some more information on these other ones that the people would definitely want to sit in on? Sure.
Dr. Richard Allen Miller broadcasts with us on Thursdays, and he's in Brisbane right now, so that's why he hasn't been on this week. He's the guy who developed the protocol for thinking as a Navy SEAL, and he's written a bunch of books. He's a farmer, and he's developed the superfoods for the astronauts and the Navy SEALs. And so he's going to be presenting a seminar on how to think like a Navy SEAL. Sheriff Richard Mack, oh, by the way, Rick Miller comes and stays at the house. Sheriff Richard Mack is going to stay at the house, and he's going to talk about, we're the ones that are restoring America. We are the ones. Those of us involved in the Get Prepared Expo, there's some broadcasters involved, and we've all taken a pledge. The broadcasters have taken a pledge so that if one of us is taken out by the government, the rest will respond, and there'll be a nonstop 24/7 reaction to any one of us broadcasters who's been taken out. And we've taken that pledge publicly at the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association convention in St. Charles, Missouri, a few weeks ago. So Sheriff Richard Mack's going to be there. He's going to be talking about the Constitution. Joyce Riley, who's a fabulous, fabulous broadcaster right here on Genesis Communications Network. She's going to talk about medicine. She's going to be talking about when there's no doctors, when there's no medicine, what do we do? And she's going to be talking about how bad the situation really is. I mean, what is really happening? The media The media is not giving us the right information. They're misleading us, the mainstream media, not us at Genesis. We're giving you the correct information. And also, we're going to have a seminar that has never been done before, and that is we're going to teach people how they can become broadcasters. We're going to teach people how it works and what they need to do to become a broadcaster. So if you out there are interested in doing what I do and what Mike is doing, because Mike is the guy that I call on to fill in for me, and that's what he's in training to do. If you want to do that, and you've got a message that's important, we're going to teach you how to do it. We're going to teach you how the system works, and we're going to teach you about the pitfalls. So Sam Bushman and I are going to be doing that. I think Joyce Riley may be joining us on how to do that, and Mike Evans may be joining us. So broadcasters who have done it are going to teach those who want to do it how it's done. And Dr. Shayne is going to be with us. He's going to be talking about emergency dentistry. Of course, Joel Wallach will be with us. He's going to be talking about staying healthy. Dr. Julie Pennick is going to be with us, talking about the poisons that are killing us. Freeze-dried guy is going to be with us and talking about what freeze-dried foods are, how much they cost, how you deploy them, how long they last. Tony Pache from South Africa is going to be talking about building long-term food storage plans. He was involved. He was in the resistance to fight the overthrow of his country by the communists. He's been there. He's seen it. And he's saying, hey, wake up. It's coming our way. It's right here at our door right now. Of course, you'll be talking about seeds, beekeeping. You want to raise bees for your garden? We've got an expert who's going to be talking about that. We'll be talking about dogs, protection dogs. There you go. Mike, that was a really fast, as you said, really, really fast 2 hours. Mike, thanks so much for being with us today here at USAPrepares.com. Class,
my pleasure.
Mike Knox is a favorite. Everyone loves Mike Knox. I'm not kidding. All of those at USAPrepares.com speak highly of Mike's because he is as genuine as you think he is. He really is. And he's going to be giving away 1,000 packs of seeds, as he always does, and he's delighted to do it. Mike, thanks for filling in for me when I was on the range teaching a class on concealed weapons. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.